Good evening, policy class. This is Janae dialing in, or I don't know how you want to put it. I'm sharing a little bit of my policy concern that I've been working on. I hope that all of yours have been going well, and I really apologize that I am not present there with you in the sharing of this work that we've all been working so hard for. However, this is the best that I can do. There is a lot on my poster due to not being there with you guys. I wanted to make sure that you have the information and are possibly aware of the topic and everything that kind of, well, not everything, but some of the things that go with it. So again, if you have any questions or concerns, I apologize for not being there, but if you could write them down, I will do my best to answer my emails, or you can post them on Moodle, and I'll do my best to answer Moodle to my knowledge that I do have, or we can create discussion. Perhaps there may be even discussion in small groups that you guys can have. So just before I carry forward in sharing the work that I've been working on, I'd like to give just a small disclaimer that I am going to be discussing medical assistance in dying. I know it's a tough topic for individuals as is, so just making sure that you know, if this is a hard topic for you, taking some self-care, or perhaps maybe grabbing some tea or going for some water would be a good idea, because I don't want to offend or create any turmoil for anybody. So that being said, I'm going to get started here, and I hope all of you can perhaps learn something new or contribute to some discussion. And so here I've been working towards not only the medical assistance in dying bill that has come out, but as my poster says, my policy concern is the accessibility of the eligibility criteria for Canadians while accessing medical assistance in dying services within Canada. So I realize that's a pretty tough and complex outline for the concern. However, when I was kind of debunking a little bit where this law has come into play, I really found a gap and a limitation in how the services may not be as accessible to other populations of Canadians. For example, we have less advantaged or marginalized populations that may not have even those very simple or basic services to access in their daily lives. So the Bill C-14, although it's well organized and outlined, and of course that is for certain needed when granting approval for medical assistance in dying, we have a concern here for these populations that face barriers and potential inaccessibility of this whole law due to not being able to access the smaller services and meeting the eligibility criteria for the larger service, medical assistance in dying. So here, I will not bore you with that, but I would like to go into a little bit of the criteria that the law states. So we don't only have the basic eligibility for the service, which would be, of course, 18 years of age or older, having a serious illness or disease or disability that's not curable. And so we have a few of these very surface level eligibility criteria that one must meet in order to access this larger service. But then we also have some very key points down here. So I'd like to mention that on top of that, when you're debunking the law, you also find that for one to even get approved or granted approval for the medical assistance in dying, an individual must also meet all these criteria. So I won't read them out loud for you guys. You're more than welcome to read them for yourself. But the ones that stood out for me is that the medical practitioner or the nurse practitioner be of opinion that the person meets all the criteria set out in subsection 1. So that's all this stuff up here. So that being said, a person in privilege, a doctor, a nurse, practitioner, holds the final say and the final decision in if that person gets granted the access to that. So I feel like that's another gap and another area that could be inaccessible for different populations. And then again here, we have to have, the individual has to have access to 2 independent witnesses who are also then agreeing to the medical assistance in dying and signing and dating the request. Additionally, they have to have an independent and another practitioner or so like nurse practitioner or medical practitioner to approve in writing their opinion confirming that person meets all the criteria and that they're also approving the medical assistance in dying. And then again, back to that medical practitioner, the one that holds the privilege. And I mean, in my paper, I talk about how we hold morals and bias and certain things. And if we're coming from different social locations, there's a concern there that this person is, that could be either granting or denying approval, maybe also flawed in how they see it for their own morals or their own biases. So again, here we have a little bit of history, and to be honest, there wasn't that much history to focus on. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of certain things that have been happening throughout the last few years and ever, but basically medical assistance in dying was not legal. Even suicide wasn't legal. Knowledge that somebody was going to commit suicide or cause their own death was illegal. So for social workers to know, and as we state nowadays still, that if we know that you're going to be a harm to yourself or others, we have the obligation and the ethical responsibilities to report that. And so that being said, in 1762, we had suicide, or 1972, it became legal for one to take their own life. And then again, it was just last year on June 17th, 2016, that the medical assistance in dying became an official legalized law in Canada. So that kind of changed the playing grounds for people trying to access services, and I think it'll be a work in progress. So that's where we come contemporary pieces. And so again, we have some numbers here, and like I said, there's a lot of information here, so if it is of interest, doing your best to read it. I put extras there just so you're able to see, but the key pieces here is there's internal conflict, not only with doctors, but practitioners, like nurses, that are struggling with the idea that one can cause their own death, because medical assistance in dying is where a person has the opportunity to administer themselves a substance to cause their own death, or have a nurse or a medical practitioner to administer a substance to cause their death. So that being said, the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner must also meet the legal outlines. So we have a lot of moral and bias that goes along with people working in the field. So if we don't only have that and people working in privilege, we also have a few people in the community holding authority that are also stating particular things and concerns that not only is this law great for human rights and progress forward, it is also, due to the lack of data and due to the lack of statistics, we have a concern here that people are seeing a trend that the people utilizing the law are looking like they're going to be privileged, well-educated, and they have access to all the several services that are needed under the law. So if you could imagine, I put an important question here. Do you think you would be able to access all of the criteria listed? And then thinking, if you could access that, thinking maybe how could one with more complexity or low socioeconomic or low social networks access all of that criteria that's needed? it becomes an issue, I feel like, if we're not considering that there's other people in Canada that may not have access to this. And so we have people that are showing concern for the accessibility of the medical assistance in dying. But a little bit deeper than that, the eligibility criteria. And so that being said, I don't want to bore you with it, but we have, as social workers, we have our code of ethics. And so again, we definitely have to adhere to one's own choice. So being competent and being ethical when working with people. We cannot, even if this is an internal conflict with ourselves, we cannot deny or we cannot change somebody's mind of the service to be provided. That's not a part of our ethics, and perhaps if that's the case that maybe we're running into, we need to assist that person in finding a more appropriate or service that will allow them to have a clear mind in deciding, educating, and having somebody advocate on their behalf. So that being said, we're working with all populations of people, and I'm not trying to say that it's only privileged people that can access this, but we also have the responsibility in working with marginalized peoples, less advantaged, or populations that have low social networks. We need to assist them in accessing these services and the criteria that need to be met. So that being said, we have our ethics to adhere to. It's neat that the law actually also supports us in legal rights. As professionals working with people, we're also protected under the law in supporting them. As long as our answers are competent and clear, unbiased and aware, we also are protected, as we are not forcing them into a death, of course. But the law will protect us if a person is considering their own cause of death. So that being said, please read through all these, as I've given you just a surface level of our ethics, but ensuring that like a value too, and the holding the pursuit for social justice and the choice people have in standing up to advocate for equal rights and equal services. I think we really need to debunk this law, and in the future we really need to ensure that everybody's having equal access and fair access to it, which I think in the future we'll see a lot of changes in responsibilities and recommendations, and hopefully as the data comes we can have some intersections, and we can have some people in the healthcare systems supporting different kinds of people and populations as well. So if you could just give this a little read as well. My cat is trying to participate with you guys, so I'm probably going to close up here. And again, I apologize that I'm not there with you guys, but I hope that a little bit of extra here on my poster will give you guys just a little bit more to read about than just listening to me talk. And again, if you have any questions, concerns, or discussion that you want to partake in, if you could just give me an email or post on Moodle, that would be greatly appreciated. And if we are in small groups, perhaps that we can start up some discussion. And I'd like to leave you with the question is maybe digging a little deeper into the criteria and eligibility criteria here for the law. And again, returning to that question of just imagining that you were one trying to access the service, and just imagining this concern here and going down and really realizing, or really trying to debunk how this law is formulated for those in society that have power or hold power, are privileged. Do you think that this, at basis of right now, I don't want you to put yourself in the shoes of dying. I'd like to see you all when I come back, but just as a person that may be marginalized or have less accessible services to them, like doctors even in Kamloops. I haven't experienced it myself yet, but I hear that it's very, very challenging and difficult, just even as an average participant in the community, to access medical care here from one practitioner. Could you imagine accessing and getting approval from two? and then 2 other people that are going to grant approval, along with many and several other things. These are just pieces from the act. So again, maybe we could start some discussion and what that would be like for you. And maybe we can create some larger ideas of recommendations that we could come up with. And then again, ultimately supporting the individual's right to choice. I hope all of you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you all soon and hearing from you and how the presentation went. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.